U.S. history in 4 minutes or less. America was founded when a group of Protestant Christians, fleeing religious persecution in Europe, made the harrowing journey across the Atlantic Ocean and landed at Plymouth Rock. These pilgrims had a feast with the Indians to celebrate their cooperation, and that became the holiday of Thanksgiving. Over the next few decades, several other British colonies were founded on the American continent, and in 1776, they all declared their independence from the king over the issue of taxation without representation. After the Revolutionary War had been won, the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution, a freedom-loving liberty document which guaranteed that all men were created equal. There's one glaring hypocrisy with that statement, though, the fact that slavery existed in America. How could the Founding Fathers believe in equality while many of them were also slave owners? Well, many of them knew that this peculiar institution was morally wrong and thought that the practice would naturally die out on its own. But just to be sure, they put a clause in the Constitution saying that the importation of new slaves would end in 1808. None of the Founding Fathers could have predicted the cotton gin, though, which suddenly made slavery much more profitable, and all but guaranteed it would continue for another century. Throughout the 1800s, abolitionists like Frederick Douglass fought to end the practice, and in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected on that very platform. In order to protect their rights as states and keep their taxes from increasing, several southern states decided to break away from the Union and form their own country known as the Confederacy. From 1861 to 1865, America fought the bloodiest war in its history, and in the end, the Union was preserved and 4 million black people were freed from bondage. It's a common misconception that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, but the Emancipation Proclamation only applied to areas in active rebellion, meaning the Confederate states. There was no way to enforce that without invading, and the northern slave states were unaffected, so this didn't really do much. In reality, it wasn't the Great Emancipator, but the 13th Amendment, ratified 8 months after his assassination, that abolished slavery. Reconstruction lasted from 1865 to 1877 and was marked by a period of relative peace since federal troops were stationed in the South to guarantee the rights of the recently freed slaves. After Reconstruction ended, though, things got pretty dark pretty fast. Within a decade, black codes had been passed in every southern state, and many of them required literacy tests and poll taxes to vote. This is the beginning of Jim Crow, an era where black people had to sit at the back of the bus and drink out of separate water fountains. They even had separate schools for white kids and black kids. That lasted until 1954, when the Supreme Court decided to desegregate public schools with the Brown v. Board of Education decision. This began the Civil Rights Movement, which gave rise to leaders like Martin Luther King, who said we should judge each other not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. With the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Jim Crow and segregation were over, and America had finally swept away the last vestiges of racism in the country. We even elected a black man as president. Twice. So the next time someone tells you that America is a racist country with racism in our DNA, hopefully now you'll know better. I'm no less Better, author of You Learned Everything You Need to Know About History in Elementary School for Better University. Thank you for watching. To help keep Knowing Better videos free, subscribe to our Patreon page at patreon.com/knowingbetter.